5:30, Connect to the Capitol. Governor Dan McKee joins me now for our monthly segment here on NBC 10. A lot to talk about, including the status of the Washington Bridge demolition and reconstruction and the conclusion of the ILO investigation. Governor McKee, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Brian.
I do want to start there. The big news involving you last week was the conclusion of the Attorney General's investigation into this school consulting contract from shortly after you became governor in 2021. The Attorney General found no criminal wrongdoing, but his report found that you intentionally steered this contract to a favored bidder with ties to your associates. You came out very strongly in your press conference against the Attorney General. I mean, was that a strategy to deflect what's in the report to the person who delivered it?
No, you try to tell the truth, right? After 3 years of that cloud being over the state of Rhode Island and over our office, it's gone. And we found out, the people found out what I've always said from the very beginning, that there was no wrongdoing. And I thank the voters and I thank the people who have supported me during this time frame. I've had people come up to me and say that they believed in me and they are happy that I've been, my administration and myself has been exonerated.
You blame the Attorney General, though. You said he basically has a political agenda because he didn't support you. So should only Attorney Generals who are political allies be allowed to do investigations?
Attorney Generals who know they're conflicted should not be, running investigations. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI investigation, which was central to the last campaign, wrapped this up in 25 words. When there's no litigation, no charges, they say nothing. And that's exactly what the Attorney General should have done.
Right. The difference was they didn't put it out there. The Attorney General put out there. Is that what you're upset about? Isn't that transparency? Did he put out what the findings were?
No, what I'm saying is that he's conflicted because he voted for someone else besides myself in the last election. He's working with that individual now to take me out in 2026. He's known that for a long time. He's conflicted. But the main issue here is that there's no charges, there's no wrongdoing. The general public should feel comfortable that they should have confidence in the fact that this entire investigation came up empty, just like I said, and we're going to continue to do the work of the people of the state of Rhode Island each and every day.
So it was the Attorney General who oversaw the investigation, but it was the state police who had the report, and then it was the state police report that the Attorney General was using, which found that you were communicating with your education advisor, Mike McKee, the head of ILO, before any of this bid was public. And the state police wrote that based on these email communications, it was clear that your advisor told you that a consulting contract should be executed quickly and it should go to that company.
So I was very, very specific, the fact that there's now no procurement violation, as the AG is suggesting, as the U.S. Attorney closed this case because they know there was no charges and there was no wrongdoing. The AG could not get to the point where he closed the case. He's conflicted and he's trying to keep open this discussion. The case is closed, Brian, and we're pleased with the result because I knew that you were going to come up empty. Anyone who thought they were going to have something that I did wrong are going to find out that that's not true.
And again, much has been made of the head of ILO's email that said it was a fixed process. And the state police, again, this is the state police writing that email shows that potential fraud or manipulation of the competitive bidding occurred at the outset and called it into question. Are you still saying that you don't think anything looked wrong, or that people should kind of look at this and not think that there was an inside track, whether there was a crime or not? I know you're saying no wrongdoing. There was no crime, but was there an inside track?
Well, the investigation was about a crime. There's no crime, right? And yes, I was in that RFP for helping people during a pandemic, Brian. We're going to get really into detail here. I was not really prepared to do that. But during a pandemic where people were dying at rates faster than anywhere in the country, vaccinations were the lowest, perhaps the lowest in the country. The fact that our economy was shut down and our schools, and we're seeing it today, that our students have mental health issues, attendance issues. Yes, there was a high priority to get that work done, and we put an RFP out of our office to get it done. The main thing is that at the point in time of deciding how that bid process would be awarded, that was done not through my process, but through procurement. And I'll go back again and say, the Attorney General is trying to say that there is a violation of procurement. That is not true. There's no violation of the procurement.
But there are people interviewed by state police who said you influenced the process.
But that is not violating the procurement, the rules of procurement at that point in time. Yes, I made sure that I was continually saying, let's get these people, let's get it vaccinated. Let's make sure that we, have our rescue workers and our nurses and our EMTs be able to vaccinate people, which was not in place. Let's make sure we open our economy, and that there was music in Newport in 2021, the summer 21. And yes, I was very aggressive. I walked into the governor's office in a critical situation that this state has never seen before and we never want to see again. And yes, I was saying, let's make sure we get high quality people to help get our kids back to school safely, because I'm being advised by the very best people in the country that there was going to be long-term effects by not having our kids fully back in school.
I want to get on the Washington Bridge, as we always ask you about the lawyer you picked to head the litigation to try to get some money back from companies that worked on the bridge. He stepped out. Do you know why that is? And are you concerned about that, seeing as though who you picked and he was highly touted?
No, I'm not concerned. Max Wistow, for professional reasons. I really enjoyed my conversations with Max. He contributed a great deal to get us to the point where we are right now. At this point in time, it's in the Attorney General's office, and they've selected a very reputable replacement to keep that lawsuit alive. Our job is to make sure that the taxpayers are protected, and that lawsuit is going to help do just that.
After there was much of it was made about that DOT public meeting that didn't go so well, and then the bid process has taken a lot longer. Right now, quickly, how would you rate the job the state and DOT are doing in responding to this now almost a year later?
Well, the DOT is doing a fantastic job relative to infrastructure in the state. We've moved up 12 points on the infrastructure rating since I've been governor. We're putting a great deal of effort in. The bridge was not something that was in my, on my radar screen. We inherited that. And yes, we are doing what we need to do right now. That public meeting was not a good public meeting. I stepped in and I actually ran the next public meeting, went from 9 minutes to 2.5 hours. I think I answered over 60 questions. We're going to continue doing those public meetings. We have in place, we stopped the pause. I stopped the pause to make sure that the bridge will be torn down. The bridge will be torn down, during the year of 2025. We will be in the process with an RFQ. That means we're looking for people who are interested in building the new bridge. We'll have that end by the end of the month. We'll qualify two or more individuals that are put together through an RFP to actually deliver us with a proposal to select who we're going to pay to build that bridge.
I just want to wrap up real quick. Tomorrow's election day. Yes. Are you for sure running in 2 years?
Well, I'm not saying here, but I can tell you there's a 2030 plan, and there's a reason why I put a 2030 tag on the work that we're doing. Go out and vote for the bonds, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all very important to the state of Rhode Island, and we can afford those based on the information that I've been given by our finance people.
Governor, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming in here and connect to the Capitol at 5:30.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.